Hey everyone, USA Today headline: A nation of busy bullies. Yeah, I like that headline. Let's see what they got to say. This is put forth by Anthony Davies and James R. Harrigan of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Not sure about that. Hopefully, it's not a tabloid style outlet. But either way, let's listen to what they got to say because if it makes sense, I don't really care where the source comes from. The land and the free, or the land of the free has become the land of the busybody. Where vices are concerned, from prostitution to marijuana to tobacco, even to sugary drinks, the United States has become a place where citizens use the power of government to bully each other into submission. Boy, that sounds an awful lot like the kind of warnings I've been putting forth in hundreds of videos so far, doesn't it? Just kind of hitting home, don't you think? Don't like pornography? Pressure the government to declare it a public health crisis. Don't like marijuana? Pressure the government to ruin the lives of those who use it. Yeah. Busybodies have made a national pastime of sticking their noses into other people's business. And you know, that's the funny part. When I was growing up, this is the fucking thing that's like, and I understood why it was so important back in the day because they were learning from past revelations regarding this bullshit, right? Is when I was growing up, one of the most important things all of our parents used to tell us is, mind your own business. Don't be sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Now, you just mind your own business now, will you? I mean, that was pounded in my head, and I'm actually quite grateful for that. I don't know how rampant it was in places outside my own privy, my own subjective circumstance, or communities that I lived in, which was quite a few, and it was in different parts of Canada. So my experience, my personal subjective experience is pretty wide-ranging. But I don't know if it was rampant everywhere, but it seemed to be very prevalent in all the places I grew up is, yeah, mind your own fucking business. Live and let live. That was the most important thing that was talked about and discussed when I was growing up, which is, to me, it's great. And I stick to that. I've stuck to that principle my whole life, and it served me very well. It served me very well, no matter where I've lived. And I've lived and grown up. I grew up in a very, very poor neighborhood in the East End of Toronto, kind of like the ghetto-ish. But yeah, if you lived and let lived and you mind your own business, for the most part, you can come out of those places unscathed. And that was really the major pretense in how it was done. It's just live and let live, mind your own fucking business. But when busybodies convince the government to stick its nose into your business, they become bully bodies. Or busy bullies, sorry. Busy bullies not only disapprove of what you do, but use the government to force you to do something else instead. Jesus. Have these people been reading my comments or paying attention to my videos? Because they're basically saying the stuff I've been talking about for a long time. Busy bullying is really about social inequality. Busy bullies believe that their opinions as to what is acceptable should matter more than other people's. Exactly right. We all have opinions. The difference is I don't lobby government to implement my opinions or force others to abide my opinions or edicts. The ones that do, yeah, you see, there's where the great divide is. But those are the people that I always call them control freaks and sociopaths. Whereas people like myself, live and let live. Yes, we are constantly railroaded over because we don't want to delve into that fray to use the pretense of government to impose our ideas on others. But don't look at it as a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of weakness because these fuckers got no power over us. They might have power over you or those around you because you're conformist and you're unwilling to stand up for yourself and be bold, right? Bullies will always bully people that are willing to be bullied. That's another thing I learned at a very young age. Yeah, look out on the playground, and I seen this. The only ones that were really bullied on a regular basis were the ones that allowed it to happen. I was bullied. I was a very small kid before I had my heart operation when I was 14 years old. I was small for my age all those years. My younger brother grew up, and he got taller than me, was bigger than me, even when I was much younger. Now, after the heart operation and stuff, yeah, he come around a lot better, but I was bullied as a young man. But because I had parents and people around me that told me, yeah, don't put up with that shit, I stood up for myself and I fought back. And it's something that If I hadn't done so, yeah, I probably would have had my psychology. I would probably be a mindless conformist or a slave. But fortunately, I had people around me said, no, stand up for yourself. Even if you have to suffer some pains and indignities, stand up for yourself. You're not going to win every battle, but if you keep fighting, you might, in the end, you might win the overall war. And that's where I'm at this stage of the game today. Yeah, I've been bullied many times in my life, but I've shown that those bullies have all backed off. They no longer exist. They're no longer a part of my life. And why? Because they realize if you're going to fuck with me, even if you think you can beat me, well, I'm going to come back at you, right? You're not going to do it easily. So, and most bullies don't want to put in a whole lot of hard work and effort, right? They want the quick fix. That's the bully mindset. Think about it. Just like governments, same kind of concept. Okay, so busy bullies believing themselves morally superior will happily lie to get the government to force you to submit to their enlightened wills. And that's another thing. And a lot of women, right? They know they can't force men or other people in their community to do it, but if government will carry out and enforce their edicts or their opinions, well, there's once again, it's like putting the gun in their hands, right? Now they have the power of force. So now their power is greatly enhanced. In the natural world, in the natural order of things, no, it wouldn't exist. But with the power of government, right, and the collective enforcers that will carry out the will of your edicts or the will of their masters, that's where this, like I say, that's where you're seeing this great divide. It's being shown, and it's getting cavernous now to the point where it's becoming so widespread and so rampant that the divide is literally creating a situation where the chasm will engulf a lot of people for a lot of devious reasons. Busy bullies believing themselves morally superior will happily lie to get the government to force you to submit to their enlightened will. So yeah, so these are people, like I said, central planners and control freaks and sociopath types. These are people, they realize that if I use this means to an end. So you've given the pretense and the power to force their opinions, their wills, and their edicts onto others. This is where, like I say, this race to the bottom. And I mean, everyone's trying to do it now. So just like if you lived in a situation where you had 10 people, and as soon as that first person starts to use the power, if they, let's use gun as a representation of government, because it's about force, collective force, and making sure you abide by their edicts. So let's say you had 10 people in the room, and the first person said, I'm going to use this government, this gun in the room, to force you to my edicts. Well, what's the underlying pretense that's going to happen after that first initial stage? Everyone's going to be looked to take over that gun, to take possession of that gun, to use it against the person that used it against them in the first place. So it's that race to the bottom. It's never beneficial because, yeah, sure, each one of them is, if they keep wrestling the gun from each other, yeah, but look what's going to happen at the end. They're all going to be enslaved to each other. That's all follow that scenario out completely in your mind and think about what the end consequence would be. Yeah, everyone's going to force each other to abide to each other's. So you're going to have 10 people that are very miserable, very much enslaved to each other, right? Kind of like democracies, right? Like I say, democracy might have been put forth and presented in the old days as the lesser of the evils as far as having central planning and governance, but in reality, it's the most entrenched, it's the most ideologically driven, it's the hardest to get rid of, so it's actually the worst of all situations. Even dictators or monarchs are much easier to get rid of, and actually because they believe that they own that land or they're the ruler of that land wholly, right, and they don't have to share it, right, they look at it as that's theirs, so they probably take care of shit a lot better than democracy. That's one thing I'm seeing. Now, it can go one way or the other, so no one's, and I'm not promoting dictators or monarchs, but like I say, democracy is nobody has any control, right? Use that as an example. If you buy a house, you're going to want to take care of it a whole lot better than if you're just renting and you're going to move out in a month or two, right? Democracy is a bunch of people moving in and out of the office or in the building. Are they going to be wanting to care the most about taking care of it, make sure it's sustainable for everyone else? No. They're only there for a short period of time. So it's a quick fix. Like I say, deities, as far as land-based deities like monarchs and dictators, they actually have more of a pretense of taking care of their slaves or their citizens or their serfs than democratic leaders ever would. First, they will say that the thing they don't want you to do is dangerous to you. When you tell them it isn't, or that you don't care, they will tell you it is dangerous to others. Exactly. Just like someone says, well, no, I smoke and I don't even give a shit if it's harmful to me. Well, yeah, but there's secondhand smoke and that might kill someone, so you can't smoke because that could... Really? And I've debunked that bullshit anyways. Just one truck driving down the road is like 1,000 people smoking beside you, right? So fuck off with that bullshit, even with the clean technologies and stuff. So bull fucking shit. Really, each individual should have the power to control and manage their own personal situation without any central planner being able to dictate that for one side or the other. Really, that's why real world, the market, like human beings in the real world have the ability to deal with the situation in real time. Whereas central planning and laws and dictates and regulations, it's a one-size-fit-all that never works. It never benefits everyone. It might benefit a very small group, or even that small group might only benefit periodically. Real-time humans dealing with people in the real world on a daily basis is how it's done properly. They will offer exactly no evidence for any of the claims because, in their eyes, moral superior is its own evidence. But your evidence they will subject to the highest scrutiny before dismissing it out of hand. So they hold themselves to the lowest standard possible, and if you try to go against or oppose any of their ideologies or their edicts or their opinions, well, they're going to hold you to the most, and we've seen this too, the most perfected standard. You have to lay out things so that you can lay out everything perfectly and predict the future 100%. But all they have to do is say, central planning, government, that's the best. That's all they got to put forth, right? What a failing model. Take marijuana, for example. Believing that marijuana destroys lives, jobs, and families, BusyBullies pushed for even more severe laws against its use. In its quest to save people from marijuana, the government then destroyed the lives, jobs, and families of anyone it found using the drug. Under the sway of BusyBullies, governments proved far more dangerous to marijuana users than marijuana ever was. So exactly. The punishments are worse than and the effects on society, right, are even worse and more harsh than the original supposed crime that was committed in the first place, which it's not a crime, especially when you're talking about marijuana use. No, there's no crime in someone smoking a plant or a bud off the plant. That's fucking bullshit. How do we know? Because recreational marijuana is now legal in 8 states and the District of Columbia, and medicinal marijuana is legal in 20 more, yet, contrary to what the BusyBullies claimed, all hell has not broken loose. Where marijuana was legalized, crime rates are generally flat or down, and neither teen marijuana usage nor drug-related traffic fatalities has risen. So of course not, because, well, that reality is playing out. Just because the government legalized something, people are going to do it whether it's considered legal or allowable under the government mandates or edicts. So nothing has changed underlying the fundamentals other than the government are going to impose. That's about the only thing that will change is the people that the government do choose to penalize and criminalize as a result of their new legislation or their new acts, right? The only increase is the people that they're going to violently oppress using that law, using that pretense, using that edicts as a means to an end. So in reality, these busybodies, you actually not only do you not benefit society, you greatly hamper and hinder society. It's that race to the bottom where there's no real genuine winners as far as society is concerned. There's a few very select central planning types and control freaks or sociopaths that may benefit, right? But it doesn't help the society that you should be most concerned about, the place that you live in, right? If you go messing with your neighbors, how happy are you going to be? Think about it, just use your own personal circumstance. If you start ratting out on your neighbors constantly, every time they did something you didn't like, How long is it going to take before you're not going to be very welcomed and very happy in your community because everyone around you is going to hate you, going to loathe you, and they're going to look to do the same thing against you. So like I said, it's just a continuation and a ramp up to that race to the bottom. Now I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video. I'm not going to finish it off. It's a fairly long article, but read on. Some really well written stuff and some good pertinent things that was discussed in this article, and I think it's important that you do, because to me, I'm all about learning and understanding what kind of information is put before me and hearing information from many different sides and many different people from many different backgrounds. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.